Let's talk templates, shall we, yeah? Because one of the things we want to do is we need to really embed that idea that our semantic model is separate from our visualization. And the best way to do that is to actually put together something nice and easy to make it super simple for everyone to pick up, build new report content that is standardized and that meets your expectations and your corporate standards. How do we go about doing that? So templates in Power BI are kind of like Power BI PBIX files that you start with. So you start with the concept of building a PBIX file. And then from that file, what we're going to do is kind of just say, convert that into a template file. That's how we do it. So what it means is we're going to have like our template ready, and we can then update that PBIX file at any point in the future and then roll that down as a new template, which of course is part of the issue. As with any template files, we need to make sure people upgrade to the new template. Tell people don't copy them, those kind of things. All those usual things apply still. I've never known templating work perfectly because there's always someone who will create a copy of it, do something that you don't want them to do. So remember that and make sure that you're aware of that and what you need to do within your template methodology or mindset that you've got in your organization. So all that aside, we start here, don't we, with a nice blank PBIX file. And the first thing we're going to do is really nice. We're going to go through, we're going to say, let's get some data. We're going to get data from a Power BI semantic model, which is brilliant because this is then going to lock it to where we want. We want to pick our Northeast Parkruns data set, hit connect to it. Okay, and we've now connected our PBIX file to that. That's really the basis, isn't it, of thin reporting. What do we need to do? So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to bring in our theme file. Okay, so our template our template needs to have a theme. Okay, we've got a standardized theme that we've gone to. And of course, you guys know, and there's lots of other templates, methodologies out there, but really every template has a JSON file and you can manually build those. You can go through and do all sorts of things like that with it. What we've done though, is we've set one up based on Parkrun data. I'll just go through, we can come through here, we can say let's browse for themes. Okay, so we've got our theme file now, we're just going to pick theme, open it, and you see it's now ready for use. So one of the things you can do, of course, is you can obviously go to the theme gallery, you can get different ones, you can build them up. There's lots of things. There's even utilities out there that will do it for you. And the utilities will go to a far greater depth than this will. Okay? But we've got a template now, or we've got a theme in our template. So let's go in now. And the next thing we need to do is to actually put in some backgrounds. Because if we're going to go down the route of saying, well, we've built some PowerPoint backgrounds, let's go in, bring those into your template, would be what I would definitely say. Right? So I'm going to pick one, transparency 0. Fit that. Okay. Do the same with a different page, because if you've got multiple ones, do the same, set them up. Okay, so you've gone through and you've got them ready. See, these are the old ones we've noticed with the still got the circles in them. Okay, that one doesn't. Okay, but you keep going, build up your page library. So you can set up 20, 30 pages, however many you want to do, get them built so that you've got everything ready so that when somebody comes through, they can go and go, oh, these are what I want. Sensible thing as well would be, I would say, put in a blank one. Okay, like within it, call it instructions. I can spell. This is just my advice. Okay, so page type 1. So this could be, I think this was demographics. Say this is comparison. Okay, whatever you want to do, okay, with your naming, you can kind of do a lot of that. We come down here. The main thing, as I say, is ignore the spelling mistakes, okay, but just hide the additional pages, okay. All you really need in a template is one visible page, okay. Power BI doesn't like having things with no visible pages. It just sees, so you always seem to need one. You can experiment and see if getting away with it with 0 works, but as I say, my experience is we just get issues if we try and save the PBIX file, especially with nothing visible. On your instructions page, though, this is where you get to put your text file information, or not your text file information, but you could say, we're going to insert text box is what I meant. Okay, where we've got additional files, these icons that we've been selecting to be used in the file, we can put those here. Okay, you can of course put buttons and prepare them and have everything ready. So you have an additional page for buttons, so people can just copy and paste them around, which might be a good way to go. But you've got this mindset, haven't you? You can put everything together, have it all in the template file. So then at the end, we go File, Export, the thing to remember, and we're going to export it as a Power BI template. Okay, so this is the demo. You give it a nice description. I'm just going to call this demo. Okay, and that's that done. Great. Take time on these when you're going through. This has been really quick, pushed through. Haven't really gone into a lot of detail with it. So when it comes to being used, what do they need to do? Okay, so I'll save this demo. Okay, so in terms of using it, what we do, you see there's the template. I've got, here's the one I did earlier. Okay, so it's a case of, you can see it's a template, the icon as a template. So if I double click on it, so you see the template gets supplied, and we come through with a nice blank file, and it already has various pages ready for it. Okay, and you can see this one, I haven't hidden all the pages, haven't done anything like that. Okay, this demo I prepared earlier. I'm going to go through and I'm going to hide a few pages now. Okay, and I thought, well, what we should do is we should go in and we should prepare something that seems to be quite a lot of our questions that we get, okay, in terms of what's the gender profile like for an event. Okay, so what do we mean by gender profile? Let's see. So to build the gender profile, what we need to do is to prepare just a few charts to go on here. And this is always one of those things, isn't it? And now I hope it's starting to kind of focus on your mind that the way that we do Power BI is have lots of thin reports with 1 or 2 pages. So gender profile report might be 1, maybe 2 pages. We'll just do the first page for now, but you could see, well, we might expand it further into like down at a local authority, even at an event level, because we're going to do like a top northeast level for this, aren't we? And so potentially you need that drill, but we'll do the top level first, and then you guys might think, oh, do you know what, I would do it differently. So let's start, shall we? So the first thing we want to have is kind of that split, isn't it, of really what's going on. So I'm going to pick a clustered column chart, okay, and we'll aim to put this in here, I think, okay. Okay, so we spread this out across here. What we're going to have here is we're going to pick finish. So we want the finish time on the y-axis, on the x-axis, sorry, and then we want the registered finishes. I can spell. Okay, so we're going to have registered finishes in the all aggregations, registered finishes on the y. We can see, okay, so we get like a nice view here. So then what we can do is we can say, well, actually, from here, let's get gender. Okay, so we're going to put gender from the age groupings. Let's put that in the legend. And all of a sudden, it changes it, doesn't it? We can see there's a definite change in the profile. And then what we want to do next is to say, right, for here, if we take the tracked events and we bring the local authority in for the small multiples, and then under small multiples, we change it to be 3 by 2, 2 by 3 even. That looks better, doesn't it? Okay. Do we need finish time? Let's do that. Okay. And then let's, on the y-axis, let's get rid of the title on there. I don't think we need it. Okay, so we can kind of see, we've got that profile view now, haven't we? We can kind of click quickly and easily see roughly what's going on. So from here, what we need to do as well is remember to go onto our size here. Let's remove the background. Okay, so we can actually now see it as it would be in our report page. Again, you can double click and change titles or things like that if we want. So we can go title, finishes by gender, local authorities. Okay. Maybe center that, do whatever you want to do with it. Okay, on here now we're going to put a couple of charts on here, okay, and see what you think. So the first one I'm going to put on is quite a simple one, but let's just look and see registered finishes. Now, should we do registered finishes or should we do distinct finishes? Let's do distinct. No, let's do registered. Okay, because we still want to talk, don't we, about actually how many people have done these things. So let's put registered finishes in there, and then let's take gender again from age group here. Let's pick this. This is one of those things that annoys me when Power BI decides to try and be clever. Okay, we don't want first gender, we want gender. We want local authority. That goes as legend. Registered finishes. Okay, so we've quickly and easily again built another chart to go there. Okay, what we next need to do, and again, this is where we can be controversial with this, can't we? Let's be controversial, shall we? Okay, I'm going to put in one that I know is going to annoy a lot of people. Title, I need to remove the background, don't I? There we go. Let's put in, see, we can do that, can't we? We take that way, which is why I think let's do it this way. So let's put in now a pie chart. Let's put distinct finishes. Okay. And gender. All of a sudden, we've kind of got something there, haven't we? Again, everything's come through the same, so we can turn around and say, well, do we need the legend in everything? So let's remove the legend from here, and let's remove the legend from here, okay, because we've got it on the top. Let's remove the background, okay, and then we can sort of go, we can put that over there, can't we? And then let's just take the title off. Yeah, so we've got something all of a sudden. Works, it's really clear, does what we need, okay? And this is then interactive, isn't it? So we could turn around and say, well, actually, we want to see male, we want to see female, we want to see whatever, okay? And it works. So it's kind of, that's the important thing, even if we chose to go blanks. We might say we don't want it that way, but we've got it. So the last thing we're going to need is to put something, like some narrative on here. And this is, again, one of those areas which is topic at the moment, isn't it? Because we could choose to go down the AI route. I'm really not a fan of AI narratives on report pages because they take time. The whole pre-staging of them, I'm not convinced by it. And the other thing is, because it's generative, what you might find is what was there when you sent the deck out is changed the next time when you look at it. And that's really jarring for people. Why is that changed? As opposed to, well, the data hasn't changed, but the way it was generated has changed. Something else has changed it. So, yeah, I prefer a more controlled approach. We've got here, we're going to choose to bring in a narrative. Oh, when I can pick it, yep, narrative. Choose to go there. I'm going to pick custom and see what it comes up with. So it's come up with a few there. Okay, I'm going to remove the background, fit that in so it's actually on the right page here, right piece. But what we end up with is something nice, don't we? Where we've got kind of everything that we need is there. The text is there, the narrative is there. We've kind of built something. If we pick a filter, we see it filters. Okay, and we automatically filters them down. So if we chose to look at a particular local authority, everything zooms through in accordance with it. So there's a lot of value add here to it. It's not a case of saying this is difficult. Once we've got that, obviously we've got all the other pages hidden. We then give it a name. You could choose to delete the other pages. There's no hard or fast rules to this. This is kind of down to you as to how you're going to use your template. Because remember, I've just downloaded the template. I needed to know how to connect to the data set. That's already done. I haven't needed to worry about anything. It all just is in place and ready for me to use. The themes are even there, so I've got the consistency. In terms of some of these where we've got the panels that come out, you can pre-stage those with panels ready to go. You need to be a bit careful with bookmarks and the way those work. So it's not something I'm going to demonstrate. It's something you need to test and work out what works best for you. But definitely, as I say, you could put in the buttons with the right icons, have those on a page, buttons. Everything you want to do, you can do with templates. It's just a case of experiment and find the right one that works for you. So we got that, we've built that. So the next thing would just be to go say publish. Now I want to publish it. Okay. And because this has been something that we've built quick and easy for this, okay, and we can choose to then go through and say, let's publish this generally department. Okay. You can see this is why we have the argument of why we've always preached that do not consider the visualization there as sacrosanct. There is definitely going to be a need for it in terms of these are the core line of business reports that go into the app, and that needs to be managed. And that's then why we get to that area where we say, we need to be a bit careful with some of these things that we're being talked about or that we're seeing being discussed as far as all gaps are concerned, whereby this is just going to be one location and it's going to be live as soon as it's published to it. The ability to stage where effectively you have workspace and then the app is a clone of the workspace, or a selected clone that's off to one side, has saved a lot of our clients in the past, whereby change to be made, someone's done something silly to the report and it hasn't affected the app. We've then had a nightmare time trying to rebuild the report pack or the report from what was in the app because you can't really pull it back. But it's saved a lot of heartache. We've had all sorts of cases with it. So the idea of saying, well, we're going to remove that guardrail terrifies me. I think that's something. It's not something I'm fully on board with. I'll be honest. So one thing I wanted to show you is something that I found as we were preparing for next week's video. We want to put some things in, get things ready for it, and we were going to move on. But there's something came through and I thought, I need to show you it before I carry on and do the rest, because it was be too difficult to do. But what I found was, let's go back to our Power BI desktop here, bring this through. So in Power BI desktop, when you are building scorecards, which we all know, I love my scorecards. Right? These things are amazing. Okay, definitely do not get enough love for it. Okay, if I looked at our parkrun scorecard, and I was initially thinking, well, we're going to have to do. Bear in mind, we've got 6 local authorities, we've got 20 events, so it's going to be like at least 86 kind of things in this core hierarchy that's going to work down. And I was thinking, well, how do we do it? So we're going to be core, which would be everything, so that'd be northeast as a whole, and then we'd have like the local authority, and then we'd have everything else like that. And then we're thinking, well, do we need to have like metrics for each one? I don't know. We've built these, we've got the lovely scorecard report pack built, it's great, it does the job. And then I realized, or I saw when I was in the edit area, under new, you've got manage hierarchy, which is still in preview. Okay, it's a preview one, so it's kind of an interesting one. We were already going to use this link to existing goal to actually try and scale up and scale down. What should it look like? But do some things around there, especially at this core level. But what I was looking at with this was went through and thought, well, hang on. with this, if I go through and I say, here we can have a hierarchy. So I've built a regional hierarchy in here. So if we went to Newcastle and looked at Jasmine Dean, click on it, takes it a while, but it then filters down these ones. Now it just does the ones that I was doing after I put in the hierarchy. So the ones before don't work, but it brings these through. Now the nice thing with this is it's great because it gives you that level of interactivity. It goes beyond what you might do the level below, as I say, where you would build. So potentially we could do local authority level here. And then in the event you wanted to go down to that next level, you'd have to go in and pick from the hierarchy. That might work. It might be a bit weird in that if you had like Sunderland and you picked as the area and then you picked Jasmine Dean, it would only update the Newcastle one, and the Sunderland one potentially would go to all this not started. But it gives you that capability, doesn't it? It allows us to do things. So it might be a case saying, well, would this change our whole metric strategy is how we would do this, or is it something we need to think through? But yeah, it was nice to see, and it gives you that ability, as I say, to not have to build scorecard items for every subsection that you've got, but go to those top level headings and allow that hierarchy down that is going to allow you to drill down to that next level when you need it, which is nice and is well worth it. I've checked the model that's built, so remember if it's linked model, okay, and it does not come through, so it's not storing these values, and we know it's not as well because these, you click Town More, for example, and it takes a while. It's not quick, okay, so it's not ideal. It's not really slick, but this is a nice added dimension to it, and this definitely adds a lot more capability to these. If you can think, we can look through and see, well, what would those metrics be at that subsection of it? So you've got the concept, haven't you, now that we've really hopefully narrowed this down and nailed it, that your core report pack, the semantic model, needs to be separated from everything else. So we've still got this where it's mixed together, and this is something we need to separate out. So the next week we will separate it all out. Bish bash bosh, everything will change. This will be the last time you'll kind of see this all together as one. So I thought we'd have a look at this. You can see we've got all our metrics now. Everything's not metrics. All our measures are now pieced together. I've still got secondary. Now this is something you can do in those thin reports that we had. So where your template file allows you to create a report, if you miss a metric and you need something, I always put this secondary folder in with this one metric or metrics with one measure. And the measure is just simply saying, create new measures here. Okay. The reason why we do that is because we need to then hide the column that's there because it's just a blank table. And that way then it appears as a metrics or as a measure, DAX measures entity in the menu. So if we went back to our gender profile that we had here, okay, you see I've got secondary. So I can go in, I can choose to right click, let's create a new measure. Let's call this diff. And let's look at last registered finishers. Registered minus previous registered. Okay, so kind of what was last week's or the most recent one versus the previous one. Okay, registered finishers. So let's put that in. So we can now bring that through. We can see we've got a number. What the difference was. Pick Newcastle. We see our Newcastle had lots of extra people for it. South Tyneside was downloads. Yeah. Okay, so we can see lots happening with it. This is what you want, isn't it? The ability to actually put together report content quickly and easily. Now, because we've put that in, we might turn around and say, actually, this is a really useful measure. And because it only exists in the secondary report folder, it's obvious to anyone, oh, this is a report level measure, okay, which is one of the things we say, get the discipline right, put them there. So if this is now a line of business metric that someone's written, this is groundbreaking for us. We can go through an approval process and bring that measure here into our main semantic model. So it's then available for everybody to use in everything. So it's a good way of doing it. And that's why we have where we put in that there. Okay. And again, you can see here we've got the FP for the field parameter, because if I click on these in the secondary report, I might not necessarily recognize or understand these are field parameters. So it's one of those where having a naming convention makes sense for them. People are going to look, I don't understand what's going on with that. What does that mean? Why has it only got one thing? And what does that mean? I don't get it. These are things that you will find happen in your business. Okay, obviously here we know we can just go through and drop it in and it will work for us. Okay, but for a lot of people in your business who don't know that, that'll be a problem. So kind of work out, how do we label these, or how do we put that through so it's really clear for everyone to be aware of. Again, in your template file, you could put in a lot of your documentation. We can work through doing that, can't we? We can show you, well, I might do that as you build a proper template and put together, this is what a full template would look like. In fact, I will. Yeah? So what do you reckon then? Okay. I hope the concept of a template has really helped solidify in your minds that we should have lots and lots of small PBIX files in our organization that really host all the visuals. And then because those are just visuals, they are a configuration item. They aren't something that you're necessarily going to govern with change management. But what we are seeing now is, because the concept could well be we have 100 plus reports that connect to our semantic model, that semantic model, the value and the importance of it in your business increases. So it has to have proper change management wrapped around it. And this is then where you get to all sorts of issues going through in terms of the ideas around DevOps and how we manage this, how we do this. It's very much sledgehammer to crack a nut if you're doing DevOps for your visuals, as opposed to just to manage and maintain your semantic model. But your semantic model also potentially needs to be influenced by those secondary reports, because as we showed at the end, you've potentially got new measures that need to be added in based on what your business users have built. And that's one of those nice things that Power BI does really well. Okay? This is a real benefit where skills that the business develops or understands can be leveraged and pushed through into a corporate enterprise platform. It's very rare to see that. And it's good that Power BI embraces it so well. And you need to make sure your organization embraces that as well. Okay. Lastly, it's this thing with the metrics, the way you can now build these hierarchies. It's still in preview, so it's not ready for prime time. Expect changes. But what I've seen so far makes me think this is actually of real value. Because like I was saying, if we're having to create 80 plus, okay, because potentially 80 times 5, okay, to report and have this as our visuals, that then becomes a bit of a problem. We can be saying, right, we've got lots of these. As I say, it's at least 80 that we need to put in. Don't want to have to do that. So being able to say, well, we've got 6, so that's like the 5 at the level of 6, so that would be 30 or so lines. That's a much more efficient, a much more palatable way for me to say, right, we can build these. So I can kind of get behind it, and I understand that works, but it's just going to be that case of working out, how does that drill work? How does that hierarchy work? What does it all look like? But we'll get our new scorecard built, we'll get everything put together, and then we can look next week at how we would bring scorecard elements into our report pack that we can then show you, oh wow, we've got everything coming together now. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? For now though, stay safe, take care, ta-da.